morning, everybody. Welcome to the Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex, home to over 200 events throughout the year, drawing over 1 million visitors from Pennsylvania and beyond. I'm Cheryl Cook, Deputy Secretary for Marketing and Economic Development at the Department of Agriculture. 10 days from today, we'll kick off the annual All-American Dairy Show, a family tradition for generations of dairy farmers who compete in dozens of events, and for folks like me who enjoy seeing all of the different breeds of dairy cows, watching the competitions, and maybe swilling down an awesome milkshake or two during the week. But this morning we honor another tradition for many American families, making use of our right to vote. I remember vividly tagging along with my folks as they went to vote when we were kids, over to the local VFW hall. That was more than 50 years ago, but it seems like just yesterday that my dad was lecturing us on the importance of taking our citizenship seriously and fulfilling our responsibility to vote. It took me a few more years to understand that not everyone in America had the luxury of just driving to a convenient VFW hall, casting their ballot after a few minutes of wait, and then going for ice cream on the way home. See, dairy and my family go back a long way. It's my privilege this morning to welcome to the podium, though, a public servant, a champion for all Pennsylvanians, a true advocate for raising all of our voices together by casting our votes, Governor Tom Wolf.
Cheryl, thank you very much for that. Cheryl just works across the street at the Department of Agriculture, so she made sure she pointed that out. Why are you standing so far back there? You're sort of embarrassed to be seen with the rest of us? And she is as you can tell, very proud, as we all are, of our agricultural tradition here in Pennsylvania, but we're also proud of our democratic traditions. And I'm proud to be here to announce new steps that I'm taking to make voting more accessible for more citizens of Pennsylvania and to make our system, our democracy, more robust. The United States of America was built on the simple idea that a country cannot work for the people if it actually is not run by the people. And that's why every citizen of this nation has the right to vote. Our country thrives when our citizens are engaged, when they vote. And the right to vote is the cornerstone of our political engagement. Elections, as you all know, are the basis for our democracy, because casting our vote is exactly how we make our voices heard. It's how we choose our future. It's how we choose the people who help us run our nation. Voting is a right constitutionally guaranteed to every citizen of the United States and to every citizen of this Commonwealth. And it's my duty as governor to safeguard that right, to make sure Pennsylvanians can actually exercise their freedom to vote by casting a ballot at each and every election. We're proud of the free and fair elections held here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that would not be possible without first providing convenient, accessible opportunities for every eligible citizen to register to vote. Registering to vote is the first step for any Pennsylvanian to actually cast a ballot. And we're here today to make it easier for Pennsylvanians to find all of the materials they need to register to vote. And that's why I'm designating 7 additional state agencies to provide their clients with materials and information on voter registration. This work will support the dedicated county officials and thousands of local poll workers who do their part every election day, selflessly, to ensure that anyone who wants to exercise their precious right to vote can do so. The executive order I'm signing today will make I'm going to sign it right over here, will make voter registration materials readily available through agencies and programs that already have frequent contact with Pennsylvanians, so that people can find a voter registration form more quickly and more easily, just like Cheryl said. It's like she used to go into the VFW with her parents. Now, a Pennsylvania who is working with a PA Career Link office to find a new job, develop a new skill, someone who's attending an event right here at the farm show, or visiting one of our outstanding state parks, any one of those things. A person can go there and also find information about how to register to vote without having to visit a second location or without having to remember to go online when they get home. This is one more way that our Commonwealth can make voting more accessible and easier for the citizens of Pennsylvania. and it builds on all of our successes over the past several years to implement reforms that make Pennsylvania's elections even fairer and even more secure. Let me just take a moment to thank all of the election officials and poll workers all across Pennsylvania. Those people are gearing up already for the election coming up in just 2 months in November. You do the hard work, you who are election officials. You do the hard work, and I want to thank every one of you for doing what you do to support our democracy. I know you're doing your job, but you're also stewards of a really grand democratic tradition. And the action I'm taking today is going to help more Pennsylvanians exercise their right to vote. It's going to support a healthy democracy now and for many years to come. So thank you very much, and now it's my pleasure to introduce the person who is responsible for making sure that our elections are safe and secure and accurate, and that is Secretary of State, Secretary Lee Chapman. Lee.
Thank you, Governor Wolf. It's a pleasure to be here today at the Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex. Thank you to all in attendance, including representatives from the Departments of Agriculture, Conservation and Natural Resources, Corrections, Labor and Industry, and Military and Veterans Affairs, as well as election stakeholder organizations who have joined us today. Your commitment to ensuring that all eligible Pennsylvanians have access to the ballot has been critical. I couldn't be more excited today because the signing of this executive order marks a significant endeavor to pursue that commitment, especially during what the governor just designated as Voter Registration Month. This administration and the Department of State continue our commitment to ensuring that every eligible voter in Pennsylvania who wants to participate in our elections can register to vote, cast their ballot, and have it counted. This executive order joins a long list of Wolf administration initiatives to improve Pennsylvanians' access to the ballot, meet voters where they are, and provide options for voters. Over the last 7 years, the governor and my predecessors have worked together to implement online voter registration, which has been used by more than 3 million voters since its activation in 2015. And implement Act 77, the most significant reform of Pennsylvania's election code in 80 years, which brought mail-in voting to the Commonwealth. More than 5.3 million mail-in ballots have been cast to date. This administration has also improved language access by making our election materials now available in Spanish and Chinese, and created a year-round voter hotline at 1-877-VOTES-PA. That offers not only voter information, but also interpretation services in more than 200 languages. While we celebrate those accomplishments, there is still more work to be done. There are approximately 1.7 million Pennsylvanians who are eligible but unregistered to vote. Voter registration is the first step to exercising our precious right to vote. And it's critical that our Commonwealth provide voter information in various forms to meet voters where they are, wherever they are in the Commonwealth. Our goal is to reach all eligible voters, regardless of political party, including voters who live in urban, suburban, and rural areas, young voters, older voters, voters with disabilities, and new Pennsylvanians. Toward that end, this executive order expands the availability of voter registration materials to more state agencies, in addition to those already covered through the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 and the Pennsylvania Voter Registration Law. Today, the Department of State welcomes 6 additional Commonwealth agencies as voter registration distribution agencies. Together, we will collaborate on creative ways to promote voter registration and civic engagement among the various constituencies that our respective agencies serve. As the governor's executive order directs, the Department of State will supply voter registration materials, and our partner agencies will determine how best to advertise and distribute them to their customers and clients. We have already distributed paper registration forms to these agencies so that Pennsylvanians will have expanded access to them in their daily lives. This executive order will help us reach veterans and their families who use the services of the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, farmers, as well as milkshake and baked potato connoisseurs who come to this facility for the annual farm show and other events sponsored by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. Visitors to our 121 state parks, patrons of public and school libraries, job seekers who go to Career Link offices, and those who are re-entering their communities after incarceration. Please help us celebrate this first voter registration month in Pennsylvania by encouraging all of your friends, family, and neighbors to register to vote. The deadline to register to vote for the November 8th election is October 24th, and you can register online or download a paper form at vote.pa.gov. So thank you, and now I'd like to introduce Shalua Ogefmifun, who is now the Executive Director of Pennsylvania Voice. Shalua?
Greetings all. Thank you, Secretary Chapman, and thank you, Governor Wolf, for inviting us to participate in this critical announcement today. My name is Shalua Ogefmifun, and I am the Executive Director of Pennsylvania Voice, a partnership of over 50 organizations working together to build an inclusive, just, and reflective democracy right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, including CASA and All Voting is Local and One Vote Counts. Our focus is on breaking down barriers to civic participation, restoring confidence in government by increasing representation in local and state elected office, and bringing historically marginalized populations and their issues to the center of public discourse. Nothing is more central to achieving these goals than how we administer our elections and how we ensure that voting is more convenient and easier to access for all eligible voters in our communities. Pennsylvania Voice works with base-building organizations, civil liberties, and good government groups in all 67 counties to modernize Pennsylvania's election system, and we have become one of the state's leading and most respected voices when it comes to updating the state's election process. It is with that expertise that I tell you that today's actions by Governor Wolf and his administration are monumental. Our coalition works with Pennsylvania voters before, during, and after election, and our partners continue to hear and see firsthand what voters need and understand the best the barriers that affect their full participation in the democratic process. While there are important policy changes that are needed to remove the institutional barriers that limit access, there are some simple steps that we can and should take to encourage more people to vote, and the governor's executive order is a great example and amazing step in that direction. We know that increased voter registration and education directly lead to increased voter participation. By designating these 6 and 7 agencies and programs as voter registration distribution centers, we're reaching Pennsylvanians where they are, making it more convenient to register, precluding one of the barriers to having their interests prioritized in a representative government. These are tangible changes that will increase participation on Election Day, especially for communities that have faced deliberate barriers to their ability to access our democratic processes. In particular, this executive order expands access to 2 demographics that I want to note that Pennsylvania partners organize with consistently: constituents who have been formally incarcerated and workers who are seeking new employment. The need for these improvements is clear. Today, I'm joined by Lamont Jones, the Civic Engagement Manager at One Vote Counts, a partner of our coalition. Based right here in Dauphin County, they have been running voter education, voter registration, and turnout programming in Black, Latinx, and people of color communities in the Harrisburg metro area. That includes pushing for educational access to Dauphin County prisons and pre-release centers. In a thank you letter from the warden, he noted that Lamont has overhauled our system for voters currently incarcerated in the Dauphin County prison from start to finish. His work ethic, enthusiasm, and dedication to the prison has been instrumental in multiplying the amount of votes. Many people think when you're incarcerated, you lose your rights. That's not the case. Many incarcerated individuals and their families don't realize they still have a voice and that they can use that voice at the ballot box, often even while they are still behind bars. The governor's directive to provide voter registration education and services through the Department of Corrections, Bureau of Community Corrections, will make a real difference for Black and brown families across the Commonwealth because of the disparate impact that we see of incarcerated individuals that are Black, that are brown, and that are people of color across the state of Pennsylvania. We know that the state's prison population is disproportionately BIPOC. Giving this opportunity empowers them and reminds them of the civic role they still play and the value that they still bring to the communities by giving them a voice in this process. Over the past few years, Pennsylvania Voice partners and programs have helped over 100,000 Pennsylvanians register to vote. Anything that we can do to make the process more convenient to them will create a more seamless voter registration experience and help to increase participation in our elections. Under Governor Wolf's administration, we have unarguably made it easier to vote and easier to access our elections. Modernizing our online voter registration system to the most expansive and arguably best in the country was a first step, but we have continued on that path by implementing Act 77 and increasing the amount of options and availability people have to voting. We have increased the ability for people to participate in our processes by including an option to vote by mail on our voter registration form. And today, we are welcoming this opportunity to increase that access further by expanding the reach of voter registration and education to these 6 agencies. At Pennsylvania Voice, our partners are working every day to reduce the barriers many of our marginalized communities face when they register to vote or participate in elections. We believe that Pennsylvania is at its best when everyone participates. A true democracy requires that every voter can freely, easily, and conveniently access the polls to have their voices and their votes counted. Thank you, Governor Wolf, for making an intentional choice to make this process better for everyone, especially communities of color, and to ensure a better Pennsylvania all around by encouraging broader participation and more reflective representation. And I welcome Governor Wolf back for questions and answers.
So I'm going to sign the executive order, and then I'll come back for questions. I'll moderate. They'll answer the questions. All right. Any questions? Yes.
Can you just give us a sense, like, why are you doing this now? Sort of like, there've been a couple elections under your time here, like, why before general election? Like, just sort of, yeah, why now versus any time earlier, or?
Yeah, I've been actually trying to make elections better and more accessible throughout the time I've been governor, and I just keep coming up with new ideas, and I'm sure, after I have only a few months to go, but I'm sure there will be others. Yeah.
So state agencies can determine how they're going to advertise this, if I heard you all correctly. But do state employees have to sort of point out that these materials are here for the people that they're interacting with, right? To me, it strikes me as a little different that we've got a billboard up that says you can register to vote versus a state employee, if you're interacting with somebody, saying, hey, by the way, we have these new voter registration.
Yeah, we want to do both. So first of all, I mean, it's not sort of whatever. There are guidelines here, including each agency will have a point person, whose responsibility is to make sure that voter registration materials are there. And Secretary Chapman, you were saying what we already sent out?
Yes, so that's accurate. You know, each agency is going to have a coordinator, but the Department of State is actually going to be implementing training for all of the new agencies very soon. And each agency is a little bit different, so we want to make sure that we are integrating and implementing what's best for that particular agency.
And how, 100 and some thousand?
Oh yeah, we've already distributed over 100,000 forms to the new agencies. Okay. Yes.
I've got another one for anyone.
Okay.
I mean, almost 2 million people in the Commonwealth not registered to vote. What keeps somebody from doing that? I mean, obviously this is one way to get at that, but what are some of the common reasons why somebody doesn't register?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and political scientists are trying to answer that question as we speak. American voter registration is low compared to a number of democratic nations around the world. But if you remember, in the 2020 election, Pennsylvania, the number of people who actually registered and came out to vote was an all-time record. So we're doing better and better. We need to do more, and I think there are all kinds of ideas as to why people don't register to vote enough. But one of the things we can do here is to make it easier to register. Secretary?
No, I agree, and it's all about meeting people where they are and providing multiple options for voters. So online registration, paper voter registration, you know, the agencies that they're interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So we want to make voter registration accessible for every voter in Pennsylvania.
Do you have any sense of how many people this might impact? Like, do you have any estimates or anything along those lines?
We don't have numbers yet, but we will do reporting as we implement, so we will have that as time goes on.
Anything else? All right. Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you very much for that. Cheryl just works across the street at the Department of Agriculture, so she made sure she pointed that out. Why are you standing? It actually is not run by the people. And that's why every citizen of this nation has the right to vote. Our country thrives when our citizens are engaged, when they possible without first providing convenient, accessible opportunities for every eligible citizen to register to vote. Registering to vote is the fees to provide their clients with materials and information on voter registration. This work will support the dedicated county officials who's working with the PA Career Link office to find a new job, develop a new skill, someone who's attending an event right here at the farm show, or visiting one of our outstanding state parks. Anyone in the Commonwealth can make voting more accessible and easier for the citizens of Pennsylvania. And it builds on all of our successes over the past several years to implement reforms that make Pennsylvania's 2 months in November. You do the hard work, you who are election officials. You do the hard work, and I want to thank every one of you for doing what you
Continue our commitment to ensuring that every eligible voter in Pennsylvania who wants to participate in our elections can register to vote, cast their ballot, and have participation in 2015. And implement Act 77, the most significant reform of Pennsylvania's election code in 80 years, which brought mail-in voting to Fund, who is now the executive director of Pennsylvania Voice. Shalwa?
Greetings all. Thank you, Secretary Chapman, and thank you, Governor Wolf, for inviting us to participate in this critical. We administer our elections and how we ensure that voting is more convenient and easier to access for all eligible voters in our communities. And our partners continue to hear and see firsthand what voters need and understand the best the barriers.